Toyota's CEO says its number one priority now is to ramp up electric vehicle production. It's going to change course. It's going to change the way it's doing things. It knows now where the market is truly heading. It doesn't admit that they were wrong, but pretty much it's an admission. They've actually made no changes to their production timelines, dates, or increased their production numbers for 2030. Toyota is still saying that only 35% of the cars it sells in 2030 will be electric. And maybe the reason for that is the success, or lack of success, I should say, of its Toyota BZ4X in the world's biggest car market. Toyota have reduced the price of their electric car in China, so it's now 20% cheaper. 20% cheaper than the plug-in hybrid RAV4. That is crazy. But there's one very, very unfortunate reason for why they have had to do this, why they were given no choice. The automotive world hasn't really said much about this, but in China, Toyota is, well, it's almost giving away its electric cars. They're so cheap, they're actually undercutting everyone and still struggling to sell them. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm the Electric Viking. Great to see you. Thank you for tuning in. And since I started this channel, I think it's worth pointing out that I have focused a lot on the Chinese car market. I've made many videos about Chinese electric cars, I'd say more than anyone else on YouTube. I've shared with all of you BYD's blade battery technology back when it was sort of new to the industry. Nearly 2 years ago, focused on BYD's cars and their technology. And also I've disclosed the fact that FAW built this car, it uses BYD componentry. And yeah, while this is technically a BZ4X from Toyota, it's not really made by Toyota. Now, if the same was the case for Tesla, everyone, and I mean everyone, would be pointing it out. They'd be saying, oh, Tesla's just using a contract manufacturer. They don't even make the car themselves. In this case though, for some reason, no one does that. Maybe because Toyota pays a lot of money for marketing. I'm not sure. But we seem to judge different car brands using different measuring sticks. I'm not really sure that's a reasonable thing to do. I think it's worth pointing out when one car company is responsible for building a car and one is not, there's a very big difference between how seriously those two car companies take electric cars. For example, BYD, they make all of their own electric cars. They don't have anyone else do it for them. Now, I've had a look at the top 70 best-selling EVs in China. None of them are the Toyota BZ4X. I'm talking the top 70 models. Not a single one is the BZ4X. Could be because the wheels are falling off them and Toyota had to recall them, and so they haven't sold very many since then. I'm not sure, but Toyota is the latest automaker to drop prices by a huge amount on its electric vehicles in China after Tesla started this trend earlier in the year, says Inside EVs. Now, that's not actually technically true that Tesla started this trend. In fact, that's completely false. Now, Dan from Inside EVs has made that claim, and I think it's well, I think he'd know if he was following the Chinese car industry, the Chinese automotive industry, that Tesla are certainly not the ones to lead this. It's been happening for a long time. In fact, there's only 2 Chinese automakers even making a profit on electric cars at all, BYD and Tesla. When I say Chinese automakers, of course, Tesla is not a Chinese company, but they do own their own factory in China, unlike all the other OEMs who have joint venture partners who basically make their cars for them in China. Now, the Chinese automotive market, the EV industry, has been in a race to the bottom now for a long time. For example, the General Motors Wuling Hongwei Mini EV sells for $5,000 US. They make $27 in profit on that car. Well, they used to. That was about a year ago when I actually was able to find that information out. Now we don't know. The truth is, like I said, XPeng, many other car companies have been reducing the cost of their EVs because there is so much competition in China. Tesla is simply one of the many. And in fact, Tesla took longer than most other automakers to actually go down that route. Now, Toyota is doing the same thing, but it's going to much greater levels of drastic price reduction. There is no way known that Toyota isn't losing a large amount of money per car it sells. The Japanese automaker has reduced the price of its BZ4X electric SUV in China by 30,000 RMB. It already reduced the price by that about a month or 2 ago. It's done the same again. So it's reduced the price by $4,400 US recently. After the 15% price cut, the Toyota BZ4X now costs $24,000 US dollars. That makes it more affordable than in the United States, where it costs around 42,000 US dollars. And this price reduction has been put in place by the two car companies that actually make these vehicles, FAW and GAC. Now that might be confusing to some, but the reality is that, Toyota are not by themselves here. Pretty much every manufacturer that comes from the West, comes from Western car company, don't build the cars themselves. They have Chinese partners who build the cars in China. In addition to this big discount, you can actually get this Toyota BZ4X version in China with a pretty cool feature. I actually like this. It can give you 1,750 kilometers of free driving range per year, or 1,087 miles, by opting into getting an optional solar panel. Now the solar panel is priced at 2,900 US dollars. Does it make sense financially? No, it doesn't, not at all. But it is kind of cool to have that feature, to be able to have that option if you want it. And it's kind of one of those like apocalyptic disaster scenarios, right? Just imagine everything went down. There was some sort of electrical issue and there was no power, no way of charging your car. Well, technically you could leave it in the sun for a week and you'd be able to drive it a little way. Now, in China, the BZ4X comes in two different variants, a single motor and a dual motor, same as it is in the US, same as it is in most countries where it's on sale. The front wheel drive model has 150 kilowatt, that's 201 horsepower, and 266 newton meters of torque. That's 196 pound-feet of torque. The all-wheel drive model has 160 kilowatt, only 10 kilowatt more, that's 214 horsepower, and 337 newton meters of torque, or 248 pound-feet. Now, it's more than enough power and torque. It's not a fast car by any means, but the reality is, if you have lower powered motors, you can improve your efficiency a little bit. And obviously, if you have a single motor, the car is lighter, and you definitely will improve your actual range. So, in my opinion, unless you really need it, get a single motor vehicle. Single motor EVs are going to give you more range pretty much every time. Now, both versions have two battery packs. One of them has a 50.3 kilowatt hour pack. The other one has a 66.7 kilowatt hour pack. A lot of controversy around those battery packs. They've been tested in Norway, in Europe. People are saying that the range that those battery packs give is nowhere near what it should be. Toyota has yet to respond to those comments. Toyota has said it will respond. That was months ago. And it's pretty much hoped that whole saga would just go away. If you wonder what I'm talking about, I'll put a link to the video I made about that controversy in the description below. Now, what happened was the Toyota BZ4X was tested and compared to about 20 other electric cars in winter, and its range was so bad that the publications testers that were based in Norway basically said, this is crazy. There's something up with this battery pack. They got another vehicle from Toyota, the same model. They thought maybe there's a fault with the other one. Unfortunately, it had the same exact issue. Really, really low range based on the size of the battery pack, meaning its efficiency is quite poor. After that, journalists all around the world basically panned the car. And of course, then it was recalled because the wheels were falling off, and Toyota didn't figure out a way to keep the wheels from falling off for around 5 or 6 months. Now, performance, 0 to 100 or 0 to 62 miles an hour happens in about 7 seconds in the dual motor version. So how many of these have Toyota actually sold? Well, it launched in October of 2022 in China, and it's been on sale from then until now. In those 4 months, Toyota has sold at 3,844. So it's selling nearly 1,000 per month, or around about 240 per week in China, which is the world's biggest car market. 27 million cars sold per year. Now that means that the BZ4X, or pretty much every electric car that Toyota sells in China, amounts to 0.26% of Toyota's actual sales. The Chinese car market is around 30% electric. Toyota is 0.26%. That's a bit concerning for Toyota because China is a very important market for it. It's, in fact, its second biggest market worldwide. Now, despite this tiny market share, the BZ4X was the best-selling Japanese EV in China in the fourth quarter of 2022, according to Inside EVs. Now, that's crazy. How can that be? They're selling 450 a week, right? In a car market of 27 million. And the BZ4X is selling more than any EV from Mazda, Nissan, Subaru, Mitsubishi, Honda, Suzuki. I mean, isn't this very, very concerning if you are the Japanese automotive industry? If you're the Japanese government, you got to be going and thinking, we're in big trouble here. The automotive industry is responsible for more than 50% of Japan's GDP when you include all the follow-up subsidiary industries that supplies. The fact that one automotive job represents at least 10 indirect jobs, and that's a big problem. Now, that isn't actually technically the only electric car that Toyota sell in China. They actually have another model. It's called the CHR-EV IZOA. Well, that's actually two different models, but yeah, you get my point. How many of those have Toyota sold in China over the past 12 months? Well, I think it's about 190 total for the entire 12-month period. 190. That's been a bit of a flop, unfortunately. Now, Toyota's EV sales in China, according to Inside EVs and many other media publications, are going to increase massively this year as the BZ3, which is the Toyota Corolla sedan, launches this quarter. It's powered by BYD's lithium iron phosphate blade battery, which will actually be a big marketing tool for Toyota in China because, look, there are so many people in China that want a BYD car. BYD have about 500,000 pre-orders. They're pretty much the only manufacturer in China that was able to raise their prices over the past few months and still maintain that massive demand. Charlie Munger believes BYD are crucifying Tesla in China. Their lead is a million miles apart. Of course, that's a pretty unfair comparison considering you could say the same about Tesla crucifying BYD in most international global car markets. But anyway, the point is BYD are crushing it in China. This new Corolla is actually a similar size to the Tesla Model 3. Toyota say it's going to have a range CLTC range of 372 miles, which is 600 kilometers. CLTC range, of course, is just totally bogus. Real world range might be closer to, I would say, 480 to 500. It's a pretty good range. Plus the fact that it's got a BYD blade battery, great marketing, BYD motors as well. A lot of BYD technology used in this car. It's built by FAW, which is basically part of BYD. It's going to be a BYD, essentially. But that's why it'll sell. It should sell well. The only question is, how many can they make? Can they turn their fortunes around? 0.26% of their car sales in China are electric. Their main electric car, the BZ4X, is a complete flop. It is. The fact they've had to reduce the price to $24,000 is cheaper than almost every other EV in China that is that size with that size battery pack. It's an absolute bargain, but I still wouldn't buy one, personally. That's my take. What's your take? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching and great to see you. Bye-bye.